Wait, why isn't this working? Wait, I'm supposed to type in my password into the keyboard? Like some kind of a peasant? Ugh. Welcome back to the channel, this is Scott K. I know, that's not a fingerprint reader, but seriously, doesn't it really look like it though? Like the little slope down into the light, it looks just like this thing, doesn't it? Anyways, this is an interesting video for me for a few different reasons. For one, the KBD8X series will always live rent-free in my head. Well, because it was one of the first videos I have ever posted. Literally, it's like what gave the channel Keyboard its start. It's like almost my origin story. So hey, right here. So I was like excited to take a look at how my dear KBD8X has transformed now in its third iteration. So KBD fans sent me the new KBD8X Mark III in two different case color iterations. That's when I found something interesting. You see, the white one is E-white, like it's coating with a texture, and the other one is actually like a more standard smooth silver anodization. Okay, but then this happened. What? They're the same keyboard, machined exactly the same, measurements and material all the same, but why do they sound so dramatically different? That's when I realized the two keyboards are different color, obviously, right? Well, color alone doesn't really mean anything, but it's how that color was applied that is the key right here. I always wondered, like, what kind of impact color finishing may actually have on the keyboard acoustics, but man, finally, it comes to light in this specific episode. So, it's been a while, but you ready for a quick science lesson? If you recall, there are like many different factors that determine like how a keyboard actually sounds. One such factor is how like the impact from the key press, right, from your fingers, excites the case material and causes the case to resonate at its natural frequency. But one thing to consider is also this. Even if the case material is like the same, like in this case aluminum, it's also the weight has a big impact on how much it resonates. Like for example, it takes more energy to resonate something with more mass, something heavier. If you take like a little tuning fork and you flick it with your finger, you'll cause it to vibrate a lot and make a lot of noise. But if you go up to like a 10-ton steel block and you flick it, the only sound you're gonna get is from the hole in your face, because it's gonna hurt a lot. But your finger flick is not gonna be enough to vibrate something so massive. I know it's like more of an extreme comparison, but something similar like that is happening to this KBD8X as well. So if you recall, anodization is essentially like creating these little pits in the material, and then you fill it with dye. That's where it gives the color. While similar, e-coating is like essentially bonding a color substrate to a medium using electromagnetism, positive minus. So coatings like electrophoresis or even painting will have a more additive effect to the keyboard, effectively increasing the weight, ever so slightly. Potentially like it's gonna alter how it resonates then. In addition, covering something with another thing, they have different resonant frequencies as well, and may even have like a damping effect to the whole entire thing. Finally, I mentioned that the finish of the E-white is actually textured. It's not perfectly smooth. Why does that matter? Generally, when the surface of an object is rough, right, it increases the overall surface area that it's exposed to. I mean, something that's completely flat to something that's rough, you could actually see why visually. And based on the loudness equation, greater the surface area of a vibrating body, lesser will be the amplitude of sound, which means less sound in general. In my opinion, this is happening right here for the KBD8X Mark III. So yes, ultimately, color of the keyboard you may choose have actually yield different sounding keyboards, even with the same exact build, like componentry wise. For the case of the KBD8X Mark III, it takes it one more step forward. Yes, the weights. Just like the previous KBD8X Mark II, the Mark III is also a fatty. By no means this is a lightweight entry keyboard. The KBD8X series has always been meant to be a solid mid-level board. With the Mark III now, you actually have the option of choosing from one of 3 different weights. The absolutely gorgeous raw finished stainless steel, and the coated brass, and finally the coated copper. Who cares, right? They're all just heavy metals, decoration. No. Well, yes, but at the same time, there is something else you need to consider: their densities. Out of the 3, copper is the most dense material from here, followed by the brass, and tailed by the stainless steel. More dense equals more heavy. Remember, heavier equals less vibration, and less vibration equals less noise. In addition, the 3 metals have different resonant frequencies as well. So hey, let's check this out. As you can hear, while the weight difference between like the copper and steel is about just 12%, they also have different frequencies they resonate at. So together, they create different sounds. See? Weights are not just for looking pretty. The material also shapes the sound of the overall keyboard as well. So now, you know why it's more important, right? Now, let's put this into practice, shall we? As you heard before, the white finish case is quieter due to the coating it has. And also, the copper was also deeper and slightly quieter as well due to its weight and resonant frequency. I call this the deep combo, let's say. Now, the anode case was higher pitched and more metallic, while the stainless steel also exhibited somewhat similar characteristics, right? So let's call this one the high combo. So I'm going to build the exact same keyboard, but put it into the 2 different cases. How do you think this is going to sound? Obviously, the difference isn't like a huge dramatic night and day. It's not like it's completely different keyboards now. However, you can hear the difference the color finish and the weight actually produces, right, as an end result. So I hope that if you decide to grab this keyboard, keep that into consideration when you choose your specific options, because you choose your own destiny. Now, before we go into our details, let's go to a quick word from our sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is an online service that helps you print PCBs, do 3D printing, or even CNC machining. If you're an aspiring keyboard designer or whatever else designer, you can take your design and simply upload it to get something made quick. Or, if you have the source code for a PCB that you already have and you need a replacement, you can also get that done as well. They can handle all types of PCBs from your simple single-layer designs to multi-layer stacks. Beyond PCBs, if you want to try making your own case, PCBWay can machine that as well. Now, a very exciting new service that PCBWay offers, OEM. Instead of just making a single component, you can actually task PCBWay to be an OEM manufacturer and make the whole thing. They can do anything from PCBs to CNC cases to even assembly. And using global manufacturing, they can offer very competitive prices. Is there a keyboard on the horizon? Well, check out OEM at PCBWay. Alright, let's go into the details of the keyboard a bit then, shall we? Overall, the design of the keyboard is very clean and minimal. Sans like the little fingerprint reader light indicator thing over the arrows, but you know. There are definitely some styling cues as an homage to the previous Mark II, and especially if you go to the side profile, you could really see like the previous generations of the KBD8X coming through. The KBD8X series has always been an unassuming, reliable workhorse of a keyboard, right, with some heft, and Mark III doesn't disappoint there. Now, the highlight of the keyboard is actually below, the weights. You had a chance to get a glimpse of it, but honestly, in my opinion, the stainless steel is the way to go, at least for looks. It just looks so fantastic. It's also the cheapest as well, so hey. I mean, the other weights are nice too, but for me, stainless steel takes the cake. For the first time, the KBD8X Mark III now comes with a hot swap PCB. It's also VIA and QMK compatible, and finally, the Mark III now comes with a daughter board. That means it should be super flexible, right? Well, we're gonna cover that later as well. So, while the PCB itself is a thinner 1.2mm PCB, it doesn't come with any of the particular flex cuts or anything like that here. And it's actually good that they did not do that, and I will actually talk about why. Just like the PCB, The plates also do not really come with any flex cuts or anything like fancy like that. However, you do get the option of choosing from many different materials of the plate, so that is good. You could choose what's stiffer, you could choose what's softer. I have here the fairly standard aluminum, also like the very flexible PC, and finally the stiff and generally clackier carbon fiber. There's more, but I have these three. Like any keyboard these days, the Mark III also comes with foam. That's a change from the previous Mark II. And like the typical case foams are present, the under PCB switch pad, as well as the plate foam as well. What is actually interesting is that this PE foam looking thing, it's not PE foam, it's that EVA foam that we have seen before in like the likes of the Bubble 75. It does modify the sound like the PE foam does, but not in a marbly way. It makes the sound much more crisper in my opinion. Now, all this could be built in two ways, either by these little silicone gaskets, kind of like how the Tiger 80 was built, right? You just kind of slip these onto the little tabs in the plate like this. However, this isn't the only way. Like the predecessor, the Mark III can also be top mounted. The plates have like the holes ready for it, and you know what? I'm very glad that they did this, and let me show you why. In my opinion, gasket mounting for the KBD8X Mark III, it dampens the keyboard a little too much. I built this out with like lubed Oil Kings and PBTFans Clear keycaps. Generally, they're like mid-level sound components, right? Not too high pitch or low, but in the KBD8X Mark III, it sounds muted. The reason I feel is that the case and the platform is very chunky, and the key press doesn't generate enough energy to really drive the case. However, if you go like more of the classic top mount, it takes away the dampening a little bit and allows for more energy to transfer into the case, making it more full and lively. But surely you're thinking, Scott, if I go top mount, I'm gonna have a stiff keyboard. Well, not really. Take a look here. This is the Mark III fully gasket mounted with the carbon fiber plate, and this is the Mark III with the top mount configuration with the PC plate. As you can see, if you want more flex, you can definitely achieve it in the top mount configuration as well. Just choose a softer plate. They both right now have the same amount of foam in it too. So if I have a recommendation for KBD fans, honestly, I would actually introduce a fourth weight option, just standard aluminum. It'll be a good option for those going for like full gasket mounting to allow for the case to be a little bit more lively. You know, it's gonna take away some of that weight and it's gonna be easier to excite. If you recall, the thinner aluminum construction of like the Tiger 80 is actually what made that board sound so full and lively and fun. More case activation. If you want it like more chill, then you could actually choose the heavier weights instead. So that'll be a great option and choice for a lot of whoever's gonna be building this thing. The KBD8X series has a lot of sentimental value to me, and it's always been a keyboard that I always enjoyed. It's really good to see that KBD Fans has brought out like the newest generation with generally good upgrades. Meanwhile, actually lowering the price as well. I remember the Mark II group buy, pretty expensive. So the base version with the stainless steel weight starts around $199, and if you go fancy with the copper weight, you can go all the way up to $279. That is a solid mid-range keyboard price right there. It's not entry for sure. You got a whole slew of color options as well, along with like 3 different weight options, right? To really help you customize your board. Not just in looks, but also how it sounds, right? Yes, right. For my KBD8X, what would I do? This right here. I actually would go with the standard anodization case to brighten up the case sound a little bit. I would also go with like the stainless steel weight, the standard one, for the same reason as well. Although I do really like how the KBD Fans gasket mount is designed, right? But for the KBD8X Mark III, I would actually choose up the PC plate in top mount configuration. In order to maximize the sound and brighten it up a little bit, I would actually use the provided EVA foam as well, because it adds a little bit more character to it. Finally, I would go with the long pull switch to help increase that bottom out strength, right? Because it's a heavy case. In the case that some people might find the KBD8X a bit more metallic, KBD Fans is also including a force break mod tape kit with every KBD8X in case you want to use it. I didn't use it on mine and I didn't have any problems with it. All in all, this is how it turned out, right? The keyboard design itself is minimal, clean and classic. The board will have flex and comfort. I had no problems with that. And finally, it's going to have the sound to match. But before I leave you with the final keyboard version typing test, I hope that this video helped to shed some more light on keyboard sound, right? Materials, weight, and all that stuff. And as usual, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll have more content for you in the future. Now, Keyboard's KBD8X Mark III. Enjoy.